It's the diary of a tired black man. Hey, it's the diary of a tired black man.
Peace, family. It's your boy Fancy Neutron representing for BackTheOnline.com. You're tapped into the DOA TBM Diary of a Tired Black Man podcast. This week, Diaspora Conversations. We're joined with a special guest from the UK, somebody who I was recommended to check out some of the work that they were doing, entitled Black Betterment. I gave them a check out, so it's been good that we can have this brother come on and join us. We can speak more about just some of the stuff going on within the community and some of the work that he's doing to get to know a bit more information about his program. So I want to say shouts out to Kim Kale. Hopefully I pronounced that right, for connecting us. And my brother, what do you want to go by?
Yeah, you cool. Welcome, brother. This Brother Raven. Brother Raven's what they know me as, Raven or Brother Raven. I'm cool with it.
Brother Raven. So Brother Raven, definitely an honor to have you on here. What's good with yourself?
Thank you. It's an honor to be here, Brace. It's an honor to be here.
Yeah, so you want to tell us a little bit about the Black Betterment program? I mean, firstly, I guess, what drove the initiative for you to cultivate the idea and bring it together, and then we can get into a bit more about what it does and what it serves to function, you know, what you want to get out of it for the community.
Yeah, let me break it down. So basically what it is basically growing up, we're based in the UK, and my family's from Dominica and Jamaica, all right? So a Caribbean background. And in the UK, they break things down like people of African descent as one group, and then people of Asian descent another group, and they have things with IC3, IC4, this kind of stuff, right? So growing up in the UK, you start realizing that there's certain challenges that the Black or the African community go through, but for realizing that growing up, it's like a lot of our people in our community in here were very I won't say integrated, but more like for many of the challenges we go through, we tend to look outside for solutions. That's what we was observing, right? So growing up, I think it came to a certain point where what could we do for ourselves that makes sense? But when you start asking those questions, new questions come along. So that's a whole long journey there. But what it came down to is we promote a lifestyle known as Black Betterment, and that's teaching people of African descent, Black people, to how to fix our own challenges. So how can we make that like a natural thing that whenever there's a Black challenge or a community issue, how do we naturally fix that within ourselves, look for others, network, each one teach one, these kind of philosophies. So we're collecting an idea, a lifestyle known as Black Betterment. So then we run a show called the Black Betterment Broadcast to promote that ideology or that idea.
Okay.
So that's a nutshell. Quick thing, one more. That's how it is.
Okay. So I mean, I've got a couple of questions. I mean, just in terms of, I guess, your inspiration, just coming up yourself, you said that you observed a lot of the difficulties that Black people faced, especially when it comes to like integrating, and you said just seeking outside of their own community for support. Who do you see as like Black leaders then that helped you sort of gauge your mindset of understanding that it was important for Black people to have their own sort of organizations and stuff?
I think Marcus Garvey was one of the primary ones. And the thing is, because there's a whole lot of different people historically who they have different names, different collective words and stuff, but essentially it's the same thing, take or give, variable. So, Marcus Garvey, Elijah Muhammad, Khalid Abdul Muhammad, you name it. Malcolm X, of course. Claude Anderson, who else? It's top of my head, Francis Kraspelkin. There's it goes on. There's a lot. So people with Pan-African mindsets, B1 mindsets, Black nationalist mindsets, all over the world. Pretty much those philosophies have heavily influenced the necessity to collate people of African descent together to work on solutions, for me personally.
Okay. I mean, I just want, some people will be familiar with those names, especially a lot of our listeners and stuff, but there's young people and stuff as well. It's always good for them to hear that they might want to go out and, check out somebody and get a bit more information about the works and the actions that they did. There's a question I wanted to ask as well, because I think in today's times when we think of, you said the word Black nationalism, and I don't want to use it in any sense of how some people try to use it, but I'm going to throw the question out there because some people say these times it's not all about skin color. I've read some posts online where I see people say stuff like, oh, this is not progressive, trying to divide up and do your own stuff. Oh, we're all supposed to be moving forward nowadays together. I mean, how would you respond to stuff like that?
Yeah, no, I hear that, and that makes sense. I think so this is very important. What we try to do is we try to find ways of speaking that work better for the Black people or for the Black firmament. So, for example, what we do here is we see that what's being described there is a narrative that isn't for Black people or African people. So, if I give you a little story, it'd be something like, historically, unfortunately, people of European descent or white people would have gone around the world and enslaved people of African descent and put them in the Americas. Very terrible. And they've been doing it for 400 years and benefited and got to a very high place collectively. So there was a certain point where that kind of behavior was no longer seen as acceptable for whatever reason, a whole lot of reasons. So obviously that had to be dismantled, allegedly dismantled. And then they had to have a philosophy to make sure that that never happened again, or that there was some kind of acceptance of what has happened. So the philosophy you just said there makes sense for the Europeans, because they have gone around mistreating a whole lot of people and benefited from extracting wealth from many different lands and resources, right? So they can have that philosophy of not to go around and notice color or race and this kind of stuff, and to work with people based upon race. They can openly say that because they've benefited, and it won't necessarily affect their collective group too much if they slightly change it, because they've already created dynamic systems where the wealth of people will always automatically end up in their community. But for the people who are victims of that behavior, it is a definite must that we notice so-called color and so-called race to fix our problems. So we try to show there's a dynamic difference between who is saying things, and this is this kind of like integrated mindset that because they say this, we say this, and there is no they, there is no we. But then when you look at the dynamics of those kind of those setups, you realize that unfortunately people of African descent, Black people, seem to always be at the bottom of all these collective ideas of coming together, right? So because of that, we have to have a different story for our people group and a different philosophy.
I think you definitely made some great points, and it lends me to think of something that went viral recently. I believe it was an old clip with Tom Hanks, and he was speaking on the Americas and just some of the injustices and things that have happened out there that he was unaware of. One of the things being he spoke on Black Wall Street and stuff, and just different different tragedies and things. And we hear a lot about people saying critical race theory. Now, this is more so in the US, but it has its application in the UK also. And, some people are against being taught this. And even from what you just said, I think it would definitely benefit a lot of people to gain, just a broader understanding and just know that some things are for them, some things aren't for them. And, there isn't necessarily an issue with that. One of the things I want to ask you about being based in the UK, recently we saw the coronation of the now King Charles. And there's been a huge uproar. A lot of countries and nations have been asking for their properties back that was stolen and stuff. And, we've had people wanting apologies for colonialism and neo-colonialism and all that. And what is your stance on that? There's a huge row going on at the minute for reparations, not just in the US, but also in the UK. Do you feel Blacks of the UK also should be recipient of reparations? And if so, why?
Yeah, I think all the nations and people that were affected by enslavement and colonization should get reparations from the nations that did it. I support all Black people coming together for the particular nations to, demand reparations. But I support that concept. However, it isn't my primary focus, because through studying and through studying history, I realized that the people who benefited from your oppression, if they're still in a dominant position and you don't have any bargaining chips, you can't actually ask for anything. And so if you observe, I think it was Japan in America, in World War II, there was a lot of, when the war happened, the Americans didn't really trust what they call the Japanese Americans. So they put them in, I don't say, it's either concentration camps or settlement camps, some kind of camping word, but they say them together and they mistreat them. And then what happened is they were there for a long time. And after the war, they let them go. And then Japan lost the war. And then what happened is Japan, they sent out people all over the world to learn technology. And then they said, go out there, don't marry any people, learn technology, come back. They did this, they came back. and Japan became one of the most technically advanced nations when it comes to innovating of technology. And with that technology that they made as a product, they can negotiate prices with other people who want to trade. And when the American government wanted to trade with Japan, they said, we'll trade with you, but first make sure you fix the damages, you pay reparations to the Japanese Americans that were put in the camps. So that means they had something that the Americans wanted, so then they can negotiate. My thing is to get Black people to own resources, economics, and network institutions and stuff, where whenever we make requests, we can back it up with, demands, resources, maybe even military might, who knows, right? But it's something that something that can bring you to the table of an equal, rather than someone who's still in a dominated position, expecting the dominators to show respect.
Yeah, no, that's
definitely,
definitely makes sense and great points. I mean, that brought me another few questions where you were speaking just in regard to the diaspora, and we're looking at, I guess, what's going on in Africa now, nations like Uganda, Kenya, places very much speaking back up towards the US and the West and putting their foot down, which we haven't seen in many years in ways, and sort of saying, no, we're not going to just bend to you guys' ways and what you guys want us to do. And, a lot of people saying it's a good sign. It leads me also onto another post that I had saw. I believe it could have been on TikTok, and they were saying when they taught those guys and gave them the educational system out there, they didn't really give them the opportunity to do the practical learning of things. It was all theoretic. So they get all the theoretic side of things, so they didn't get too much of that hands-on experience. So when you spoke about the Chinese, I believe, and you said, they came in and they learned how to do things, they got more of that practical experience. But you also made a point when you said they were told to go in and sort of, not mix and sort of, keep your head down and do these things. Is that something that you would recommend for the Black community now? A lot of this times we hear about, interracial relationships, and we see that some people think there's an agenda nowadays to push it. In other aspects, some people say, hey, can you be Black, pro-Black, or, speak for your community and be in an interracial relationship? We recently saw a debate with Shaka Bars and I believe the comedian Godfrey on said subject. So where do you stand on that? If I could ask you while you're here, Brother Raven.
Yeah, sure. So can you be pro-Black and date a non-Black woman or a non-Black man if you're a woman? My answer is no, you can't. But I think what's a more stronger answer is I would try to promote it as no. I mean, even if there is a saying yes somewhere, I would try to overrule it as no. And the reason is because that idea doesn't benefit the Black collective. You have to have ideas and philosophies that benefit Black people. And what benefits Black people is a constructive Black man with a constructive Black woman making a constructive Black family. You see? So that's what I promote. And those constructive Black families network with other constructive Black families to own resources, industries, and each one teach one, and actually networking to actually form something where wealth can be generated, generation after generation. So ownership is what I'm saying. And ownership works well with Black families. The challenge is if you marry out, then when you die, whoever you marry could get a hold of your assets. So if we're having community building initiatives and you marry someone from another nation, another people group, then you could be building up one type of family, and then another family outside our community then has access to something that we've built up. And on our show, we show this. We show the history of how this happens, and we show the reason why it happens. We also look at a history of what's known as Ham's Redemption, and this is a process that happened in Brazil, but mainly the Portuguese and Spanish-speaking places in the Americas, where they would limit people of African descent education and ability to actually grow in the community, and then say, but if you marry out into a European person, a white person, then your offspring will have more access, because the lighter you are, the more you're going to have freedoms. And obviously, eventually, when you create what they define as a new white person, then that person can have the full freedoms, and then they can go and essentially it's a form of
Yakub-esque. Yeah. But I'm sorry, I'll let you continue. I was just saying.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. We use the term. So what we do is we take all this information that happens over the world, and we pull it into philosophies or symbolic ways of speaking that we can easily say. So we call that gentle genetic genocide, right? That's what, and so we call it Gen 3. And this is a strategy that we're seeing was the main strategy in the Spanish and Portuguese-speaking nations, but in the Anglo-speaking nations, the England, these kind of places, they use a very different technique, and it was separation and degradation, segregation and degradation. So meaning you get two different people groups, you separate them, but you make sure that the African one or the black one, whatever, has the least and is always dependent on the European one. That was the Anglo method. However, in the UK, it's kind of switched now. They don't use that method anymore. Well, they do in a covert way, but what's the highest method is the Gen 3, the gentle genetic genocide, where you're encouraged to marry non-black.
I mean, have you seen some of these videos and stuff that are going viral on social media and TikTok where there's like white women being asked their preference, and some of them are saying, hey, coming out straight and saying, I want to be with a black man because I want my legacy to continue and stuff. And so they are speaking outright in some aspects and saying like, well, we know that we want to, we want the genes pretty much. It's like sometimes it sounds a bit crazy because, a lot of people say that it's all about love and stuff, but it seems that there's something else a bit more unsavory at play sometimes.
Yeah. We try to create ways of thinking and words to use when we're in public to articulate, certain kinds of truth that benefits black people. But what we say is, okay, well, if what you're saying is based upon love, let's have a system in place where, like, let's just say that this truly is love and you fell in love with a non-black woman, then why don't we say that if anyone in our community marries a non-black woman, that person's wealth, if he should pass away, by contract should automatically go to his sister or mother or a woman in his family line. And that way you can say, well, if it's just about love, we can do that, right? But you tend to find that it isn't just about love. They actually do want resources and wealth, as most people want in marriages. So it demonstrates that. But either way, we're saying that we're going to try to create scenarios where black men marry black women. That's just what it is. So regardless of it is love, isn't love, we're thinking of how can we do behaviors or templates. The correct word is templates. And what I say by templates is like, we say, here's what black people can do if we want to collectively move forward, you see? And that's become constructive, find a constructive black woman, marry her, have a family, and meet other families and network and this kind of stuff, right? So once you go outside the community, it doesn't qualify for the template that we put down.
Okay. So, this brings us, I guess, back to the program, the Black Betterment program. Now, I had a chance to check out a few WhatsApp groups and stuff before, and there was a whole bunch of different departments and stuff. I mean, you want to break that down, all of the different departments and stuff that people can check out and get advice and stuff?
Well, basically, it
was quite compartmentalized, yeah.
Oh, you might be talking about Mount Melanin, right? So there's a network known as Mount Melanin. If you said WhatsApp, that's where it's on, right? So that's a separate thing.
Okay, I believe it was sent by the brother as well. So
yeah. So I'll break it down.
I may have assumed it was intertwined. So
I'll break it down. Yeah, that's what we can still mention because it's something that. So I also run another separate network known as Mount Melanin, and basically what that is it's a WhatsApp network where we have different things. So health, self-esteem, justice, economics, literature, care, land, and in these areas, there's black people of African descent, black people networking for information or to meet up or to help each other on those particular themes. Now that's a separate thing I do called Mount Melanin. I do a lot of projects. I got a lot. That's one. Another one is the Black Betterment broadcast, which is the thing I do today at 10, which is promoting the lifestyle of black people, finding black people to work with, a network of and form institutions and just pretty much bring everything in house.
And what platforms can they hear the podcast?
So if you go on YouTube and you type in Black Betterment broadcast, you will find the Black Betterment broadcast channel. And what's good is what we do is every time in the show, we have an intro, we talk about a certain topic that we promote. And then the community are welcome to jump in and participate. What we're doing now is a love campaign. So because I'm a graphic designer by trade, right? So, and I also make apps. So what I'm doing is I'm showing ideas of a love campaign. And one love campaign we're going to do is we're getting pictures of black couples together. And we've got a campaign called Black Love Is. And we're showing like black partners, looking together and
nice.
And this kind of stuff. And then what works the the community to do is think of hashtags that we can use to promote it. And then we have a voting system. What hashtags should we use? And then this week, I'm going to show 20 of the images that I've designed. And we're going to go through and pick them, say that one works, let's use that one. And then next week, we're going to post them all. And we're going to do this. And we've got 3 campaigns we're trying to develop. Black Love campaign, Black Economics campaign, and Black Ownership campaign. So everyone, you're welcome to jump on board. All Black people welcome to jump on board and work with us to create campaigns that work better for our community.
Okay, sounds great. Another question I want to ask, especially as you're based out in the UK, recently we've seen a media mire with a TikTok prankster by the name of Mizzy. And, he's been all over social media for, some pranks, and some people say a bit of horseplay. Some people say he's stupid for what he was doing. He's been on a few different platforms where they've interviewed and stuff about it. I mean, have you had a chance to see all of this? Or what's your thoughts on it? Do you think that stuff like that reflects bad on the community, or do you feel not so much, or do you feel that they was, going a bit too hard on him in that occasion?
Yeah, well, we covered him, I think, a few weeks back. And what we were saying is we were trying to have certain guidance so that the youth doesn't go and do these things. But we were also, what we tried to do as well was thinking like, break down the psychology of people who do this and how could we use it to promote Black betterment. So we were saying that a lot of these younger guys now, they have this thing, they want clout, meaning if they do something controversial, it might get hold of views on TikTok or Instagram, this kind of stuff, and they like fame, and maybe they can monetize their fame, right? So we're thinking, is there a way we can use a perceived form of clout to get notions? And we said, well, why don't they promote Black love? That's very controversial. Yeah. Why don't they promote Black businesses? A lot of people, that's very controversial. So the idea is, how can we make the youth see Black empowerment as a way to promote an idea, but also use the edgier side of it, which is automatically edgy, unfortunately. Yeah. But they're looking for edge. So rather than getting your edge and your clout from jumping over Jewish people or stealing dogs and running away, why don't you promote Black love or Black economics or Black businesses, and you'll get maximum clout, because every time we try to do it, we get massive pushback. You see? So we use it as a narrative to spin, and then we push out there. But also, we're always happy to talk to any of the youth out there and give them guidance and direction. And we work with a lot of collective groups that do that. Personally, this is there's a lot of like outreach groups I work with who go on the streets, and whenever kids are doing any kind of crime, whatever it might be, they try to home in, or any issues with bullying at school or something, they go to the schools. So we have that kind of outreach as well.
Okay. That's what's up. Well, we definitely want to see some positivity, more positivity from the kids. We don't want to say there isn't any that exists, because sometimes the focus does get pushed upon the negative ones. And, myself, I worked in like the youth system, worked with young people and stuff. And a lot of times they put so much into the kids that have already been criminalized and stuff. And then you have good kids out there, but they don't necessarily get the same attention, and sometimes projects are still put behind them. So ultimately, yeah, I guess if we can turn some of these negatives into positives, balance the scales a bit more. I'm mindful of the time, Brother Raven, because I know you got your show coming up. But it's definitely
like I said, I can go all as long as you need until 10. So like 5 minutes before 10, I have to jump off, whatever. I don't need to. Yeah, that's right. So I'm cool.
Okay,
but if you've got questions, I'm here. And by all means, I can come back another time. And also, you're welcome to jump on our platform and give your opinion. We'll look as many constructive brothers as possible. We look forward to working with.
Yeah, no doubt. I think it's important. I think it's great just with the technology and stuff nowadays that everybody's able to cultivate these new ideas and put things into fruition. A lot of times we hear people say over the years, there needs to be this or there needs to be that. So I always tip my cap to those who actually take the action and the initiative to step forward and create something, which is like what you guys are doing and stuff as well. So, just Black Betterment, is there anything else that you want to push just in regards to the movement? There's tons of questions I could ask just in terms of, what's going on and stuff, but I know we could cover so much just more in depth at a later time.
Mm-hmm. Well, look, the thing is, my thing is actual peer-to-peer networking. It's very important. I've met you, brother. I'm seeing your thing. And if there's any ideologies that we correlate on, then we can always reach out. If there's something you're trying to do yourself, there's any kind of, like, for example, if I'm going to become more familiar with your network and your show, but if it's constructive and it helps Black people move forward, then there's no reason why we can't promote it and network. And because what I'm trying to do is have a whole lot of like broadcasts and podcasts out there that have a particular similar message, and then we network and promote each other's work because we're on the same page. One thing that we try to do is we try to have a constructive, high principled product, right? Where it's like you come here where your grandma or your children can potentially watch it, and the interaction with the guests and the host isn't hostile. It's more case study based and high principle based. And we try to move as far away from being error prone as possible. So this is what we try to spread as an ideology and as an action and something that we can optically observe. And if any other Black or African kind of podcasts out there are similar, then we're happy to network and help out. And ultimately as well, it's about what skills people have and how people's skills can influence. So if you're a designer, you're a sound engineer, you're a video editor, podcast maker, actor, voice actor, whatever it is, we can network it with each other and help each other push our platforms forward. I see nothing wrong with me helping up and coming people out there with technology, with branding, with marketing, you name it. From my side, as long as they agree that they're going to be constructive and try to help Black people move forward.
Yeah, no,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, that's definitely a good look. There was something that I was going to ask you just in terms of technology. We're seeing a huge surge and rise in AI at the minute.
Yep.
Some people have called it out. Some people see its purpose and its benefits where it can be utilized and used. What's your thoughts on AI? Do you think it could be destructive towards taking more jobs and stuff away from people, especially primarily the Black community?
Yeah, so I work in media and I work in technology. So I probably am at risk of being replaced by AI. But what I would say is when when cassette tapes came in, they thought it would end radio. It's about the people who have knowledge, how they utilize things. I'm a designer and I see AI, and when I see AI, I see something that I could actually use as a designer. So there's certain things I could use that would make my job easier. So I could utilize it to be actually more productive myself, right? So it depends on how, many new ideas can be problematic or beneficial. And it's about how you use it and how you utilize it. I think where I go with AI, that's probably a bigger question, is teaching young black kids to be into tech. And the reason I say that is because trying to teach our kids to be into tech, they can actually look out and create products that benefit Black people. So apps that are there to network Black businesses, apps to make Black men find Black women, apps to, to teach whatever kind of lessons, blah, blah, blah. And also more importantly, creating algorithms that benefit Black people. You see? So that's why I'm very heavily pushing, and we do it on our show as well, pushing young children to get into coding and technology. These are tangible things in the modern times that can be highly beneficial to Black people. So I'm definitely about that. And I think if Black people are there, they will be creating the algorithms or the AI, and they would have all the things we need in their brief that they build. You see, that's the thing. It's about having children or the young generation be briefed in what our people need, so they can go and do it and they can learn it, and then that way they will come as telling us that, you know what, AI is a bit dodgy, or this is a bit dodgy because we've studied it and it goes against our community's principles. You see, it's just like health, isn't it? If someone else is feeding us and we're not growing our own food and stuff, we don't know. We don't know the philosophies of what might be beneficial. But if we have people who actually understand it, or they're in the companies, or they form their own companies, then they just say, you should eat more lettuce, more pomegranates, more, and it shouldn't be, fusion seeds, or it shouldn't be this kind of whatever. They'll know because they study it, but they've been trained to look out for the best interests of Black people. So they're going to come and give you the genuine, this will help our community. But that's why you have to have seeds of children and send them out to learn all the benefit things that our community need. One challenge we face is maybe we've got a lot of kids learning a lot of stuff that is oversaturated or doesn't really help us in mass number. So these are the conversations we also have on the show. What should our children be learning? And I'm saying one of them is very important, is tech.
Do you think those of us who have the expertise in it should do more? And I know it's some people might say it's a heavy thing to ask because especially nowadays, you know, people's time is so limited and overstretched sometimes with just work and constraints and family and, you know, cost of living and stuff. But do you think it's something that we need to do more of ourselves in terms of setting up maybe after school programs, Saturday schools and things of that nature?
Yeah, two
And I
things.
know it
So
can be difficult because, you know, some people say funding is hard to get and acquire and stuff as well.
yeah, I hear that, but I would say this: that what we could do is we could there's different sets. So you have institutions that's made. Sorry, pardon me. Sorry.
No worries, bro.
Hey, yeah, institutions that's made that's made to teach Black people particular skills, right? Now, if funding is hard for that, we can do crowdfunding stuff. But someone has to campaign for that, so I agree to that. That's one strategy where it's people are paying, things are done. So it can, after the crowdfunding is done, we have sustainability, could be on weekends or after school hours, who knows? And it's particular skills that we as a community value and we want us to learn, but also the ideology of how to bring back to the community. But number two, you could do pro bono where when a person becomes pretty efficient or successful in their field and they have enough to live off and somewhat comfortable to an extent, we could have reach back kind of initiatives where they do Zoom meetings or they go to a hall or whatever and teach their skills for free or reducedly reductive price, I don't know, to people want to learn. I do that. I do Zoom meetings where I teach people how to design apps, use Photoshop, sound engineering, video editing, vector design, bitmap design, you name it. Any skill I've learned over 20 years of doing my field, I'll teach to any Black person. It's not for free, it's not.
Yeah,
like I said,
we definitely got to commend you for that because it's not something a lot of people do. You know, I mean, I don't know everybody. Obviously, there are people out there that do their bit, but especially down here, I'm not going to mention no names, but within the city, I've definitely seen a lot of people come up in different ways and aspects, utilizing the name of young people in the community, garnering funds, garnering positions and stuff, and climbing that proverbial ladder. However, they're not lending nothing back then to the same community. Some even turn around and say, hey, they don't pay me enough to work with kids anymore. You know, I'd rather sit down and speak to people, in different kind of meetings and forums. And I think sometimes that can be very harmful because people start to look at them as like they've sold out and stuff. And we always hear about these things within the community. It's not nothing new. So those that do actually take their time to give back, we definitely got to commend and salute for that.
Yeah, but one thing is what I'm saying for Black Betterment broadcast is look at ideas that benefit Black people, and then try to culturalize it. Try to make it a cultural norm. So making it rewardable, or making the community really uplifting people who become successful and come back and take the time. This is what we have to do. But once again, the most important
creating
thing,
our own award shows, things of that nature.
Yeah, well, of course. What the most important thing is the ideology or the lifestyle of helping each other. You see, we're trying to make it that the dopamines in our head becomes released whenever we do something constructive for our own community. You see, and if you can do that, and this is what the whole idea is, that you systematically change your people who have been systematically changed to be anti-Black or self-hating, to be pro-Black and self-loving, you see? And this is the idea of consistency, but it's a whole science, social science that we're dealing with. And we look forward to brothers like yourself and other sisters around the world networking, coming in and benefiting, and then we can actually spread these ideas of making Black Betterment the norm.
No, definitely. And, I'm all for it. A lot of people don't agree with me sometimes when I say, I'm for separation in a lot of ways. Not segregation, but, separation, as Brother Malcolm put it, and definitely about Black betterment and community development. And, that's not to say we can't, see others say, hey, other things, this, that, and there. But I do believe we definitely need to take care of our own. And like the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, do something for self.
No, I agree. And like I said, brother, if ever you feel a way to say a certain thing that you feel you might get pushback, what we do on the show is hear what you're saying and try to formulate words to make it easier, so there's less
I was going to write that as well, because Kenny did mention that to me. He said, there's certain words and terminologies that he said is a part of you guys' program, like use words like unsynchronized and different stuff to define different words and, steering away from using different words as well. So I thought that was quite important. But sorry, I'll let you build on that.
No, yeah. So basically, what happens is whenever there's a black person who might behave in a way that's not beneficial to the community, that a lot of times that we might use historical racially charged terms to describe them that was maybe invented by Europeans, and we use it as a second-hand insult to attack our own. And I'm saying that I don't think we should be using any form of profanity to describe ourselves anyway. But what we can do is we can identify those who want to work for the collective best interests of black people, and those who don't work in a way that's against our best interests. So someone is either synchronized with black betterment or unsynchronized with black betterment, you see? So when someone does something that's unsynchronized, we say, well, that's unsynchronized. And we don't do it as a form of insult. We do it because the synchronized black people need to be aware who they can work with, and they ain't gonna necessarily sabotage the progress or slow it down because they have unsynchronized behavior patterns, you see? So we take away the profanity and we make it more efficient, more effective. And it's no insults, it's just trying to get efficient, effective people to find efficient, effective people. And you can't be efficient and effective if your ideologies don't synchronize, you see? So like for me, promoting black love is essential. I can't be in a group where we're having a campaign to promote black love and black marriage and this kind of stuff. And someone says, well, we need to be able to marry everyone. So I'm like, oh, that's fine. You won't be part of this initiative. This is only for the synchronized black people. And that's one of the many kinds of ways we try to use language to better suit our collective fulfillment.
Okay, and that's a great point right there. Unfortunately, we're running out of time, although I do have a ton more questions, so I'm definitely going to be looking forward to having you back on. And I'm going to see if I can tune into today's broadcast that you've got going on with Black Betterment. And by the time this is released, obviously, guys, we encourage you to check it out as a weekly broadcast on YouTube. We'll have a link in the description. So thank you, Brother Raven. It's your boy, Fonzie Newtown, represented BetterOnline.com. We appreciate you taking the time to join us this week.
Thank you, brother. Thank you, brother.
Good looking out, man. All right, peace, man.
Hi, grandma.
It's the diary of a tired black man. It's the diary of a